Cleveland Browns just made another blockbuster trade. Andrew Berry strikes again. Folks, this is why you subscribe to the Browns Report, because here I am enjoying my Wednesday evening, and I see that Cleveland is making a trade, and I'm like, I got to get on the Browns Report and talk about this, give the Browns fans the news. What's going on? Why is this happening? And what is this deal? Folks, Greg Newsome is being traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cleveland, in return, gets another cornerback, Tyson Campbell, and it's a late pick swap, so the Browns will get a 7th-round pick. The Jacksonville Jaguars will get a 6th. That 7th that Cleveland is getting is the Eagles that the Jaguars had acquired. Wow, blockbuster. We knew Greg Newsome was actually a trade candidate for the Cleveland Browns, but we had no indication that the Jacksonville Jaguars would be the trade partner and the suitor. So why would Cleveland make this deal? What is going on? Well, first, let me just say, I really liked Greg Newsome a lot. I loved his time in Cleveland. I think he started to play with a lot of energy. I think his coverage has improved vastly, and this season his coverage has been noticeably pretty dang good. Cleveland Browns defense has been one of the best in the NFL. They rank first in total defense amongst teams that have played 5 games this season. And for every team in the NFL, the Browns are ranked second in total defense. The Browns also have the best rush defense in the NFL. The secondary, maybe the only spot that could have used a little bit of work, but Ward and Newsome were doing their job. They locked up Jamar Chase. That was Newsome most of the game, seeing time with Jamar. And Jamar had 2 catches total. So I really loved what Greg Newsome had been doing. Why would Cleveland make this move then? Well, Tyson Campbell from the Jacksonville Jaguars, he just signed a massive contract extension last year in 2024. That was in July. Campbell was signed to a 4-year, $76.5 million contract extension, $53.4 million guaranteed, by the way. So he's also a young corner, 25 years old, I believe. Jacksonville, with a team that is surprisingly one of the best records in the NFL, and the team that leads the NFL in takeaways, adds Greg Newsome to their roster. Jacksonville might make some noise in the AFC. Cleveland maybe didn't feel that they could bring back Greg Newsome in the offseason next year. Because to my point, he's on a contract year. This was inevitable that you were going to have decisions to make with Martin Emerson Jr. out for the year. He's on a contract year as well. And so if the Browns felt that they couldn't pay Newsome, well, then you were going to get nothing in return for him and lose your second-best corner on the roster. Now the Browns bring in a corner who's had some talented years, who's had some decent success in the NFL, and who's already signed to a 4-year deal. Now you don't have to go into a bidding war with other teams to try and keep Newsome or sign another free agent corner because due to the lack of cap space for the Cleveland Browns, suffering from the Deshaun Watson deal, they're probably not going to win any bidding wars with other NFL teams. So now, like I said, there's a young corner in Cleveland in a cornerback room that really needed help. I'll be honest, though, I'm going to miss Greg Newsome. I think he's going to do really well for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we'll see if they're able to pay him in the offseason. And it's another trade being done with the Browns and the Jaguars. What happened the last time we traded with this team? We fleeced them just a few months ago in the NFL draft. Let's revisit that trade really quickly because we had the 2nd overall pick in the NFL draft. A lot of people said, you can't pass on Travis Hunter. He's a generational talent and also will play cornerback. Well, maybe the Jags haven't seen enough for him at corner, and they wanted to bring in a guy who's been playing really well in Greg Newsome. Now, we also gave Jacksonville a couple late picks. They got Bashul Tutin, the running back, and Raywan Lane, a safety, even later in the draft, who hasn't made too much of an impact. The Browns, in return, got the 5th overall pick, which we used on Mason Graham. We got the pick that we drafted Quinshon Judkins with. We got a pick that we drafted Dylan Sampson with. And we got the Jaguars 2026 first-round pick, an absolute haul, simply for not drafting Travis Hunter. And Mason Graham's been a run stuffer. He's made an impact on that Cleveland Browns defense. So absolutely love when we traded with Jacksonville. I won't lie to you now. But this one took me by surprise. To my point, Newsome had really been balling for the Cleveland Browns. Let's talk about Tyson Campbell. Let's talk about the player that Cleveland is bringing in. PFF grades him overall at 56.6. Not amazing. That's just for the 2025 season, though. And I'd say he's a better tackler than Greg Newsome, but I wouldn't say he's a better cover corner. I do think you are downgrading a little bit at cornerback too, but Campbell's got a lot of potential, and he has some up and down seasons. So I think the main part of this, why Cleveland would actually do this, is once again looking forward to the future. We knew Newsome was a trade candidate, a trade target, and that was literally just because of him being on the contract here. That has nothing to do with his talent or ability for the Cleveland Browns. So this benefits Cleveland in the sense that you already have a lock starting corner 2, guaranteed money, signed to a deal on your roster. You don't have to worry about that decision to pay Newsome now. Let that be the Jaguars' problem, who are trying to make a little bit more of a push as they've gotten off to a hot start this year. I'm really curious to see how Tyson Campbell fares in his first game with the Cleveland Browns, because our cornerback 3 slot has also been a little bit miscellaneous. It's been a little bit wide open. We started with Cameron Mitchell, who was absolutely terrible, and Cleveland waived Mitchell. Now it's really being reps split between Miles Harden, and they just signed Dom Jones to the active roster. Dom Jones will be getting some reps at that nickel spot, that CB3. Tyson Campbell has a big role to fill, some big shoes on a defense that has been playing very well, that has been keeping up with some of the league's best receivers. I told you about how Jamar Chase was locked up by Greg Newsome. Can Campbell fill that role for the Browns? The main thing here is that they are looking towards their future. Folks, I remind you, subscribe to the Browns Report. We got you covered when there is breaking news. I'm ready to get on here and talk to the Browns fans about it. I want to hear your opinions, folks. In the comment section right now, grade this trade for the Cleveland Browns from the Browns' perspective. An A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. Drop a grade in that comment section. What do the fans think about this? Where do we stand? I will also say, I'm glad they're making moves. I'm glad Andrew Berry is pulling the trigger and making some trades. You're watching a team that has potential, that is in a division that's wide open, that has a lot of amazing young rookies that can be stars for Cleveland for years to come. We're building something here in Cleveland. We have a bright future, a young, optimistic future with some future stars in this league. Carson Schlesinger on defense is going to be a star. You can write that down that I'm saying that. And so I like that Andrew Berry is not sitting still. We have a defense that's really good. It's not, who knows how long it's going to be this good. And so you hear the fans' cries. You hear that we want to play some winning football. Make the moves. You traded for Cam Robinson with the Texans, traded Joe Flacco to the Bengals and got a 5th-round pick in return for that. Next year's draft, if it's anything like this year's draft, it's going to be a masterclass. It's going to boost Cleveland for years. And so while I do think this move isn't necessarily a win-now football move, it is a move that will benefit Cleveland in the long run and their off season when they have other decisions to make, other guys to pay. You now have a cornerback too for years in Cleveland in Tyson Campbell. So that's the good news and the bad news about this trade. I am sad that Greg Newsome is on his way out. Thank you, number 0, for your time in Cleveland. Good luck in Jacksonville. And Tyson, welcome to the Browns. Show us something. Force a turnover this week against our division rivals. We will be live for that game to see how our new addition plays. But, folks, thank you so much for joining me here on the Browns Report. You must really be a diehard Browns fan if you're watching this video still right now, because you wanted to know what the Cleveland Browns were doing and why they were doing it. Thank you so much for watching the Browns Report, folks. Have an amazing rest of your evening, and anytime there is breaking news, I will update you with it. So thank you, folks, and I'll see you next time.